My name is Sarah Whitcomb, and 3 months ago, I sat in a plasma donation center in Columbus, Ohio, watching my own blood drain into a bag while a nurse asked if I was feeling dizzy. I lied and said no. I had donated plasma 11 times that month. The center had a limit twice a week, but I'd started going to a second clinic across town just to squeeze in more. My arms were bruised in a pattern only I recognized. Small purple maps of every appointment I'd made instead of eating lunch. My father needed a second heart surgery. The first one had drained our savings. The insurance company called it not medically necessary enough for full coverage, and the hospital wanted $43,000 before they'd even scheduled the procedure. I hadn't told my sister, Melissa, how bad it had gotten. She lived 2 hours away in Cleveland, worked in marketing, and always had some reason she couldn't help. "Money's tight right now, Sarah, you know how it is." She said it so easily, so casually, while sipping coffee from a cup that cost more than my grocery budget. I never asked why her nails were always freshly done, why her boyfriend Derek drove a car that changed every year, why she posted vacation photos from Cancun the same month. I was selling my plasma twice a week. I told myself it wasn't my business. Then 3 days ago, my father asked me to bring him his old filing box from the closet, papers he wanted organized just in case. I found it that evening, dusty, tucked behind his winter coats. Inside were his bank statements, insurance documents, and something that didn't belong there at all. A joint account statement, my father's name, Melissa's name. I sat down on the edge of his bed and opened it, expecting nothing unusual. The balance made my stomach drop. Over the last 2 years, more than $60,000 had moved out of that account. Transfers, cash withdrawals, payments to something called DK Consulting LLC. I didn't recognize the name, but I recognized the initials. DK. Derek Kane. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the papers. Because that account, the one my father had quietly built for decades, the one meant for his medical emergencies, was almost empty, and I was still selling my blood to fill the gap. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the bank statement spread out under the lamp, tracing every transfer with my finger like it might explain itself if I stared long enough. The withdrawals started small. 200 here, 500 there. Then they grew. 3,000. 4,200. Always labeled the same way. DK Consulting LLC, services rendered. My father had never mentioned hiring a consultant. My father barely knew how to use the ATM without calling me first. I called Melissa at 7 the next morning. She picked up on the 4th ring, her voice thick with sleep. "Sarah, it's early." I found Dad's joint account statement. Silence. Just enough of it to tell me everything. "What statement?" she finally said too carefully. "The one with your name on it. And $60,000 missing." "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is, Melissa." "Because I've been selling my plasma twice. A week for 3 months so Dad can afford surgery. And apparently there was money this whole time." Her voice cracked. "That account was for emergencies. Derek had an emergency." "An emergency," I repeated. "What kind of emergency needs $60,000 over 2 years?" His business was struggling. I was helping him get back on his feet. I was going to pay it back before Dad ever needed it. "He needs it now, Melissa." "I know that." "Then where's the money?" The line went quiet again, longer this time. When she spoke, her voice had changed, smaller, almost frightened. "There isn't any money left, Sarah. Derek's business failed 6 months ago. I've been covering his rent, his car payments, everything, out of what was left in that account. I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to tell Dad." I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles ached. "So while I was in a clinic chair with a needle in my arm, you were paying your boyfriend's rent with our father's heart surgery money." "I was going to fix it." "When?" She didn't answer. That afternoon, I drove to my father's house to check on him, still shaking, still turning her words over and over. He was asleep in his recliner, oxygen tube resting under his nose, a folder of unopened hospital bills sitting on the side table. I sat beside him, and that's when I noticed something tucked beneath the folder, an envelope addressed to my father. From a law office in Cleveland. I hadn't seen it before. I picked it up, and my hands went still when I read the sender's name, Kane and Associates. Kane and Associates. My stomach turned. Derek's last name was Kane. I told myself it could be a coincidence, some other family, some unrelated law firm, but my hands didn't believe it. and they tore the envelope open before my mind caught up. Inside was a letter, dated 3 weeks earlier, addressed to my father. It referenced a power of attorney amendment and a signature that needed to be notarized at his earliest convenience. Attached was a document granting expanded financial authority over my father's remaining assets, his house, his pension, everything, to a secondary party listed only by initials, M.W. Melissa Whitcomb. I read it 3 times before it made sense. Someone had drafted paperwork to hand my sister legal control over what little our father had left, and the law firm handling it belonged to Derek's family. My father stirred in his chair. "Sarah, what are you holding?" I didn't want to frighten him, not with his heart the way it was, but I couldn't lie to him either. "Dad, did you sign anything from a law office recently? Anything about power of attorney?" His brow furrowed. "Melissa brought some papers a few weeks ago. Said it was for tax purposes, to protect the house if something happened to me. I trusted her. She's my daughter. Did you sign it?" He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I think so. I don't remember all of it. My eyes aren't what they used to be," and she said it was routine. I felt something cold settle in my chest. My sister hadn't just spent our father's medical fund on her boyfriend. She had positioned herself, quietly, legally, to control whatever remained of it. I called Daniel, a friend from college who'd become an estate attorney. That same night, he asked me to send him photos of everything. The bank statement, the letter, the amendment. He went quiet on the phone for almost a full minute after reading it. "Sarah," he said finally, "this isn't a routine amendment. If this goes through unchallenged, your sister would have near total control over your father's remaining assets, including any settlement or insurance payout tied to his surgery. Can we stop it?" "Possibly, but I need to know something first." His voice turned serious. "Has your father signed the final notarized copy yet, or just this draft?" I looked down at the letter in my hand, at the empty signature line still waiting at the bottom of the page, and then at the second page tucked behind it, one I hadn't noticed until that exact moment. It already had a signature on it, but it wasn't my father's handwriting. I stared at the signature until the letters stopped making sense. It was close, unnervingly close to my father's handwriting. The same slant, the same shaky loop on the capital R in his name. But I had spent 32 years watching that man sign birthday, cards and report cards and hospital forms. I knew his hand the way I knew my own. This wasn't it. "Daniel," I said, my voice barely steady, "I think someone forged his signature." He exhaled slowly on the other end of the line. "If that's true, this isn't just a family dispute anymore. Sarah, that's fraud. Possibly elder financial abuse. I need the original document today, before anyone has a chance to file it with the county." I didn't tell my father what I suspected, not yet. I didn't want his heart carrying that weight on top of everything else. Instead, I told him I needed to borrow the folder for safekeeping, kissed his forehead, and drove straight to Daniel's office with my hands, trembling on the wheel the entire way. Daniel compared the signature against 3 old documents my father had signed years earlier. He circled inconsistencies in red ink. The pressure, the spacing, the way the final stroke curled upward instead of down. "This was traced," he said quietly. "Someone had an authentic signature in front of them and copied it by hand." Who would even know how to do that? Daniel looked at me carefully. Who had access to his old paperwork? Only one person did. I called Melissa that night, my phone shaking in my grip. She didn't answer. I called again. Nothing. On the 4th attempt, a text came through instead. "Stop calling. We need to talk in person. Not on the phone." She agreed to meet me the following evening at a diner off the highway. Somewhere neutral, she said. Somewhere we wouldn't make a scene. I almost didn't recognize her when she walked in. She looked thinner, paler, her eyes rimmed red like she hadn't slept in days either. Before I could say a word, she slid a folder across the table toward me. "Before you say anything," she whispered, "you need to see what Derek's family actually had planned. It's not what you think it is." I opened the folder with unsteady hands, expecting more lies, more excuses. Instead, I found a second amendment, dated just 2 days ago, with a name on it I never expected to see attached to any of this. Not Melissa's, not Derek's, my own. My name was on the Second Amendment, listed as a co-signer to a settlement release, one that would have signed away any claim I had to help manage my father's affairs, quietly cutting me out while making it look like I'd agreed to it myself. They forged mine too, I whispered. Melissa nodded, her hands trembling around her coffee cup. I found this in Derek's briefcase 2 nights ago. His father's law firm didn't just draft the amendment for me. They were planning to push through a second one that erased you completely, so no one could ever challenge how the money moved. I was going to let the first one go through. I never agreed to this. But you let him forge Dad's signature. I didn't know he'd actually done that until I saw the original next to the copy. I swear it, Sarah, I was drowning in Derek's debt. And I told myself I'd fix it quietly before anyone got hurt. I didn't think it would go this far. I believed the fear in her voice. I didn't believe it excused her. The next morning, Daniel filed everything with the county recorder's office. The forged signature, the fraudulent amendment, sworn statements from both Melissa and my father's original documents for comparison. Within a week, investigators traced the forgery back to Derek's father's firm, uncovering 3 other elderly clients who had unknowingly signed away portions of their estates the same way. Derek and his father were charged with elder financial fraud and forgery. Kane and Associates lost its license within the month. Melissa cooperated fully with investigators, testifying against Derek in exchange for restitution instead of prosecution, an outcome my father remarkably insisted on. She's still my daughter, he told the judge. She made a terrible choice out of fear. I won't ask for her to lose everything over it. The court ordered partial repayment from Derek's remaining assets, enough to cover my father's surgery in full. 3 weeks later, I sat beside his hospital bed as the doctors confirmed the eye procedure had gone perfectly. Melissa visited every day that week, quiet, humbled, carrying coffee for both of us instead of excuses. We didn't fix everything overnight. Trust doesn't rebuild that fast. But she started paying me back for every plasma donation, insisting on it $20 at a time, folded into cards she left on my kitchen table. I stopped going to the clinic. My arms finally healed. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like courtrooms or headlines. Sometimes it looks like watching the people who tried to erase. You get written back into the story, forced to answer for every signature, every silence, every lie. My father's heart kept beating. My sister kept showing up, and for the first time in months, I stopped needing to give away pieces of myself just to hold my family together.